Hello, I'm Bob Larson, host of the nationally syndicated talk show Talkback. My concern about Satanism is the result of research conducted to write my book, Satanism, the Seduction of America's Youth. What you're going to see on this video will be revealing, shocking, and for some of you disturbing. But it's important information you need to know. In 1966, a one-time carnival performer named Anton LaVey shaved his head, donned a hooded black robe, conducted a devil-worshipping black mass, and established the Church of Satan. LaVey's book, The Satanic Bible, which ritualized his religion, has sold more than 500,000 copies. Today, Anton LaVey is a recluse who grants no interviews and makes no public pronouncements. The affairs of the Church of Satan are overseen by two people, his daughter, Zena LaVey, and Mr. Nicholas Schreck, founder of the Werewolf Order of Satanism. Zena LaVey and Nicholas Schreck are the chief spokespersons for the Church of Satan, and they are the two people you will see me confront during this video. Whether or not you believe in a literal devil, you should be concerned about the plans of LaVey and Schreck to establish a satanically ruled society. This interview was not a debate with my countering the viewpoint put forth by the Church of Satan. The purpose of this video was to divulge information regarding the agenda of the Church of Satan, facts that until now have been cloaked in rumor and contradiction. After seeing this video, I'm sure you will be appalled by the evil teachings of Satanism clearly evident in the statements of LaVey and Schreck. You may wish to use parental discretion for younger children during some parts of this video. And now, the first family of Satanism. Let's come back to the beginning now for a minute. Let's go back to 1966 when this whole thing got started. The suggestion is that your father hit on a good gimmick. You're always accusing the church of being hypocritical and using gimmicks, but it seems to me that your father hit on a very good gimmick. And then there was a lot of showmanship involved. I mean, nudes on altars and satanic ceremonies. How sincere was the beginning of the church? How sincere?
It was quite sincere. There had to be public attention to pave the way for Satanism to be a recognized and above-board religion, as it had never been before. So there had to be public attention. You don't have a movement without moving.
And the archetype of the devil has always been as a showman.
And he
all
always
musicians,
admitted that.
all artists, anyone who has a creative way of attracting attention has always been accused of having diabolical powers.
Now, but what I find interesting is, although many people like yourself might think that he was only doing it as for gimmick's sake and because he was a good showman, you also complain that he won't come and be on your show.
Yeah.
So now, which is it? Would you rather have him be a good showman and come on your show?
Well, why doesn't he come out of the closet?
He's not in a closet. He's living his life happily.
But he is not, I mean, he is fronting an organization.
Listen, he came out of the closet in 1966 so that everybody else could come out of the closet.
But excuse me, but he is not making his views, his doctrines, his beliefs.
His views and doctrines are available in the Satanic Bible.
He's not making them open to the objective inquiry of the press, of journalists, of anyone. No, he's not. I mean, you are speaking for him, but he does not put himself on the line to defend what he believes.
He's past that point. He's past that point.
He no longer has the need to speak to the media in that fashion, and certainly the Christian media is a dying force.
And he's living his life.
Wait. The Christian media is a dying force?
The Christian media is now going through its last very extravagant death throes. Jim and Tammy Baker,
where do you get these statistics from?
All of the evangelists are slowly falling out of favor. And as we move into the Satanic century, we're going to see Christianity's last gasp.
Well, now hang on, excuse me just a minute, Nicholas. You make some broad sweeping statements that do not have statistical validation.
Now, while it is true that certain televangelists have had a marked drop in their audiences, overall, the growth of religious media in America is exploding. Can you quote me any statistics in regards to religious radio stations and religious television stations?
Much more.
Do you know how fast they are growing in this country?
There's much more religious media than ever. That's not what I'm saying.
And I think
I'm saying that's a sign of the death throes of Christianity. You've given up your ideals, and now you're joining the devil's ranks, which is to entertain people. You are now part of the media, which is something that the fictional character you base your religion on, Jesus Christ, would certainly not have condoned.
Well, now
you are now using...
Nicholas, you throw so many, you know, I don't want to interrupt you, I want to be polite, but you throw so many little zingers out that are just factually inaccurate. I do have to call you. You just casually say this fictional character, you completely disregard the historicity of Christ. But let's come back to that.
As most historians would.
Well, that's not entirely accurate, sir. Let's get back. Let's get back to the.
Well, it is quite accurate if you want to speak about that.
Let's get back to where the whole thing started. Okay. Let's get some facts straight here, and I'm asking you, Zena, because the press has kicked these things around. Jane Mansfield. Was Jane Mansfield a follower and or a lover of your father?
Yes, she was a member of the Church of Satan. I will not discuss my father's private life because I don't think it's anybody's business. But she was definitely a devout follower of the satanic philosophy.
Well, his private life has been pretty well discussed in a number of notable books on the subject.
Well, that's there for people who wish to
Okay, well, if you prefer not to, fine, but I'm trying to get some facts here. The curse. The story of the curse that killed Jane Mansfield, that your father supposedly put on someone else and she happened to be in the car.
Well,
Any truth to that?
That's been published in a number of books and papers also. So do you want me to talk about things
I'm just asking you. I'm asking you. I'm coming straight to the source here.
No, there was no curse.
There was no curse. So she was not decapitated because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time because of your father's curse.
I would say she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, obviously.
But your father did not put a curse at her request?
On Sam Brody, yes, but not on her.
No, but he did put a curse. And because she happened to be in the car with him when he was killed, she got killed too.
Because she ignored Anton LaVey's request that she break communications with Sam Brody, warned her to stay away from her, so she did not do that.
But your father did put a curse on
Sam Brody.
Okay, I'm just trying to get the story straight here. Marilyn Monroe, what was the connection with Marilyn Monroe?
That was an affair that the two of them had when they were both very young and were relatively unknown. It just so happened that both of their lives took off in a direction that, you know, garnered some fame. But at the time that they had this affair, they were both very young, late teens, early 20s.
Sammy Davis Jr. He's been pictured worshiping in one of your father's altars, wearing a pentagram. Was he at a time a follower of the church?
At a time, yes.
Are there any prominent stars today who are followers openly of the Church of Satan, such as these people were back in the 60s?
There are, and some of them we already know of. Some
Who?
of them, well, if you want entertainers, King Diamond is a member of the Church of Satan. He openly admits that. None of these other heavy metal people are.
Right.
And then there are other actors as well.
Because of
for whom? For example, whom?
Well, because of the recent hysteria we've seen, I'm not going to put their
There are people in every field of
jeopardy.
endeavor, in architecture,
Well,
science,
excuse me,
matter
but
of
why?
fact.
You see, you blame it on hysteria, but in fact, if they're a follower of Satan, should they not be willing to step forward and say so? I mean...
well, that's what we're embarking on now.
Well,
We
what
are
the
in
90s
process.
are going to see is a massive rise of Satanism. People are going to come out of the shadows and reveal themselves as thoroughgoing Satanists. Because what we're seeing now is the death struggle between the Judeo-Christian idea and archetype and the more ancient satanic archetype.
Nicholas, for $100, anybody can join the Church of Satan. That's what the membership form says. And that's a lifetime membership.
They can join the Church of Satan on that level. However, to become an active member of the Church of Satan requires that you are already doing something to advocate Satanism. Simply by joining, you do not become a Satanist.
So that's just a quick, easy $100 to pocket.
No, it's
well, it is, because I mean, just what do you get for your $100? A little membership card that says, "Hi, I'm a Satanist."
No, Satanism is not like Christianity, a way of gathering sheep together in one place. We feel that the best way to change the world into a satanic arena is by having strong individuals in different areas do their own individual work. So by joining the Church of Satan, you enter into the possibility of going into the higher echelons of the Church of Satan.
But if you join a Christian church, there is some obligatory relationship that you have, some duties and responsibilities to perform.
The Christian
do you
church,
not have any duties? I mean, you pay your $100, you get your card, and that's it? You don't require anything?
If that's all you choose to do. Most Satanists, as most Christians, are not fully committed. Most Christians are not fervent Christians.
And you guys got that problem too.
Everyone has. When you are dealing with human beings, you have the problem of insincerity. How many Christians are truly Christian? I maybe met 5 in my entire life.
Well, if they're not truly Christian, then they're not Christians.
So that just becomes a semantic problem.
Yeah, well, can you be a Satanist and not truly be a Satanist?
It's a problem of semantics, as I said. You can say you're a Martian. Well, what does that mean? Satanism is a very broad-based word. To be a member of the Church of Satan is another thing. If I say Bob Larson represents Christianity, therefore does Bob Larson represent Jim Jones and Jim Baker and Jimmy Swaggart and Charles Manson, other people who have called themselves Christians? So you understand the problem. It's a question of semantics and definition.
Okay, let's talk about the church for a minute, because there's so much that I would know and take for granted, and certainly you would know much more and take for granted, that the average person has no understanding of. It is a church. It takes that moniker. It presumes that position. And when we think of a church, we think of weddings, we think of funerals, we think of ceremonies of worship, of its views on everything from medical treatment to
those are all activities that go under the umbrella of the Church of Satan.
Let's find out what goes on in the Church of Satan.
Well, one of the main misconceptions is that the Church of Satan is a physical building where black-robed people come to congregate. The Church of Satan is an idea more than a building. It is a large network of people internationally who are committed to the ideas of Satanism. We don't all get together and have bingo games and raffles like Christian churches do to keep everyone feeling like they're part of one big happy family.
I have to jump in on you now. I don't approve of bingo games
and
raffles.
No, I didn't say that you did, but you understand.
And I don't think that's truly representational of the legitimate activities of Christianity.
Okay then, if you can say that, most of what you are defining as Satanism is not part of what we would define as legitimate Satanism, just as I will give you the benefit of the doubt and assume you are a legitimate Christian and Jim Jones was not a legitimate Christian.
You're a legitimate Satanist.
The Church of Satan represents legitimate Satanism.
And some kid who gets a Slayer album and cuts the head off of a cat is not a legitimate Satanist.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere near him any more than you would.
All right. Now, let's talk specifically. Marriage. You perform marriages?
Of course.
What is a satanic marriage ceremony like? What do they do? They obviously don't wear white.
They could wear white.
They can wear whatever they want.
There is no dogma or constricting.
And there's no obligation.
Well, what do you do? I mean, like witches have a hand fasting ceremony. Do you have something like that?
Well, we encourage people to decide what they want. If they want a particular type of ceremony, then we'll help them write it. But there is no steadfast, hard and solid.
The proper use of black magic is to find out what will work for you personally and devise a ritual that will fulfill your archetypal desires in a way appropriate to you. A ritual that would work for Bob Larson to get what he wants out of the world isn't going to work for the next person.
Excuse me, you said black magic. You just let that roll off your tongue like, hey,
easily.
A black magic ceremony for Satan.
Black magic, and again it's a question of semantics, I would define as the use of will and ritual combined to create change in the world without any restraint on what that change might be. No hypocritical pretending that we are appealing to a higher force.
Well, have you been to a satanic marriage? I mean, have they ceremony?
Sure.
What was it like?
I've conducted them.
You married people
Sure.
in the name of Satan.
If you want to use that terminology,
Well,
yeah.
what did they
it would
do?
be
I mean,
satanic.
Well,
I mean,
let's-
It varies.
What I'm
Each
trying to-
Keep in mind, we've
marriage
all
is
seen
different.
seen Christian wedding ceremonies.
Right.
So we know the philosophical frame of reference in which that occurs, but we don't know philosophically what's happening.
Well, a satanic marriage is usually they're considerably smaller, more intimate, and because you have a gathering of people who are completely for you, and each one is different from the other. We don't have a set rule as to what the marriage will
Unlike the
consist of.
Christian church that has an assembly line idea, a certain dogma is read, two people agree to it, you are now part of the Christian community in marriage. We feel that each individual should form a union with whoever they wish to.
But of course, Nicholas, that's because in Christianity there is a prior philosophical commitment as to what marriage represents. And so what I'm saying
Marriage,
is...
to us, to Satanism in brief, marriage represents what you want it to represent. We believe each individual is entitled to decide what their life should consist of. There is no bond to any supernatural entity.
And even
so
to
you-
decide if you even want to be married at all.
Marriage is not mandatory, nor is... Nothing is mandatory.
Would you marry two lesbians?
I personally do not believe that homosexuality is a natural practice any more than you do. And I don't...
Would you marry them if they thought it was and wanted to be? I mean, Anton LaVey, the
If they were
Satanic Bible
Satanists,
certainly
then they
condones
would
it.
certainly be able to marry themselves and consider themselves married.
Well, it may sound like an absurd question, but suppose Joe
if
wants
you
to marry
wanted-
his golden retriever. If we're all animals, I mean, can Joe conceivably marry his dog?
Speaking for the Werewolf Order, which is my organization in particular, we do not feel that homosexuality is a healthy or natural or safe or hygienic practice.
But you're contradicting
not-
Anton in the Satanic Bible.
No, what I would agree with him in this sense, that I do not prescribe any moral onus against it. What I'm saying is do whatever you want to do, but accept the consequences that come with it. And
Well, you're not answering the question about the golden retriever, and I'm not...
No, I don't. I believe bestiality is as repugnant to me as it is to you, but not for moral reasons, but because of natural reasons.
But earlier you said we're all animals. I mean, an
We
animal's
are-
an animal.
Well,
So what's the difference?
animals
but a golden
don't breed.
retriever wouldn't mate with a Siamese cat.
Yeah, only
So neither
humans.
would a human
Only
and a golden
humans
retriever.
who are so neurotic that they
Well,
break the natural law.
Without getting too intellectual here, you do have some
Oh, yes, I have a
speciation,
strong
differentiation.
See, that's something.
That in effect you're not willing to call morals, but in effect places you as a human animal on a higher rung of evolution's ladder, giving
No.
you certain
No.
priorities over what you do to the rest.
No, absolutely not. In fact, I believe that animals should be protected by humans, as it is our duty as the inheritors of the earth to protect the ecology, to protect wildlife, and satanic ecology is forefront on our agenda. We need to protect the earth that we live on and our natural environment.
Let's talk about a worship service. Okay, you have sexual rituals, compassionate rituals, and destructive rituals. according
And
to
many
Anton.
more. Those are three
Well, those are the three
Those are
main ones
three.
Anton
Right.
talks about.
in the
Now,
Satanic Bible.
Zena, these are the three put forth in the Satanic Bible. Describe them. Destruction ritual. What is a destruction ritual?
Well, we believe in vengeance. We don't believe in turning the other cheek. You keep turning the other cheek and you run out of cheeks. We feel that if you are wronged in some way, that you take it out with the person responsible, whether that's directly or indirectly, whether that's actually going to the person and addressing the problem or the issue specifically, or whether it's working it out through ritual.
May I ask, before you go on, have you never had an experience in your life, I certainly have, where I felt I was wronged by someone else, only as I matured later in life to discover, in fact, that in that circumstance I was the one who was wrong, and it was my own selfish ego that placed upon it the imprimatur of saying I was wrong. So that, but what I'm saying is, if you claim the right to get even with anyone at any time, what if you're wrong? What if you do a destruction ritual?
Well, how do you know that you were wrong?
And what's wrong with your selfish ego? I would think your selfish ego is a healthier gauge of reality than some moral system found in a 2,000-year-old book.
I would think it's very blinding, because in fact,
live by instinct, how could that be blinding?
We're getting back to our animal natures. We are beasts, and we decide from gut instinct whether we have been wronged or not.
Excuse me, you've never done, you've never done anything wrong and thought you were right?
Let's back up even further. Maybe if what you were experiencing was some youthful ego thing that you think you were wrong, what about infants that are passed from one relative to another, and they're fine, and they get to one person and they just start screaming, and there's something there that's wrong, and an infant can sense it. Is that infant reacting wrong? Is that a wrong reaction? Well, I would say that on a much more simplistic level, that is the way we react. If we instinctively feel that something's not right, we have to go by gut intuition.
What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong?
What is wrong and right? And in our case, we are making up our reality. We decide what's right and wrong. You are letting the Bible or Jesus Christ or whatever God may be
even
decide.
Common sense. I mean, even leaving God out of it, to suggest that you can make up your own reality, my goodness, that's what they did in Tiananmen Square. That's what they did in Germany in 1933. I mean,
and that's what they're doing in America in
These are examples of people who created their own reality.
Everyone creates their own reality. The thing is, you speak for a consensus of reality which is acceptable. We speak for one which at this point in history is not acceptable. Well, so it's just a question of who manipulates the media, who has the most money to put their reality forth.
Would you pardon me saying that I find a world in which your ability to conjure your own reality as you perceive it to be a very frightening world for people like me, because you see, I'm guided by some codified rules that tell me what is right and wrong. In your world, I'm not so sure I would feel very safe.
Well,
you would see that's your problem. You have, in the satanic world of the future, Christian churches will be allowed to continue because they pose no threat to us. We don't need Christianity. Christianity needs us.
Sure.
So we'll let it.
Sure. Tell that to the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto. Why, we're not going to put you in gas ovens. We're not going to kill you. We just want you to wear an armband.
No, I'm not saying that.
I mean, we just want you.
No. I'm not saying I'm a humanitarian. Don't try to whitewash me.
Hitler created a reality. Was it evil?
Hitler was a masterful black magician. Of course, he created a reality. Was it evil? I'm telling you that I don't believe in good and evil, and nor can anyone decide what is good and evil. It's all based on historical and cultural values. In my point of view, the Christian religion is evil, in quotes, because it is negative.
Nicholas, I'm not a Jewish survivor of Buchenwald sitting here with a number tattooed on my arm. If I were, frankly, I'd be incensed. I'd be outraged at you suggesting.
Well, they are incensed and outraged. They're incensed and outraged.
You're not willing to say Hitler was evil?
Absolutely not, because I'm not going to bow down to your level of good and evil. That's so primitive.
Pardon?
I'm telling the human race.
What purpose would that serve? You want us to give you these lines.
I'm telling you, you have to decide for yourself.
No. I'm asking. I'm asking for parrots.
You want rules.
No, you do.
You want rules.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you just a fundamental question of social colloquy in regards to how human beings treat one another.
100 years ago, Napoleon was considered the devil incarnate, the most evil person who ever lived. Now he's forgotten. Everything changes with cultural tides. Morals change with the weather. You can't say something is good or evil. You can only look at human behavior from a realistic perspective.
Well,
And
yes,
if you
yes.
really want to look at what is evil, the book that you have sitting right there is probably the prescription for
The
more
Bible?
evil.
The Holy Bible,
That's right,
and if you can tell me this is untrue, tell me.
Throughout history.
Exactly.
In the name of
more people have
Christianity.
died because of the Christian church in the past 2,000 years of its dominance.
Was the Spanish Inquisition
Well,
evil?
hang on. You got
I'm
off
not saying
Hitler
there's-
here. You sidestepped Hitler.
No, let's talk
Oh,
about
okay.
Hitler.
Let's
Whatever you want to talk about.
We'll talk about this in a second.
Let's talk about the Bible. Let's
Fine,
talk about
let's-
Hitler.
but
Let's talk
let's-
about everything.
I don't want to
And
misquote you.
why-
In
but
fairness
also,
to
I think
you,
it's interesting. Why do we focus so much on Hitler?
Why are you so fascinated with sex and
I think
Hitler?
this is very
I'm not
interesting.
fascinated with
But
sex,
these
and
are the
I'm not
things that you-
fascinated with Hitler. No, I'm not.
Because
sir.
you keep bringing up
No,
the
no, 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 no.
Holocaust
See,
and the
these wouldn't
survival.
be
I'm
a-
sorry,
These are juicy
but
topics for you to address.
those types
And
of,
so is Satanism.
of ad hominem arguments really don't make it in a debate. Okay, I mean that's that's intellectually
Well, what-
dishonest, and you're a brilliant man, and even you know that.
What do you want to get
What
at
I'm
then?
asking
What's the
you-
issue of
well,
our debate?
the issue is, and I'm wanting to be fair to you. I'm not
Well,
wanting to put words in your mouth or misquote you. You're saying, are you then saying that what Hitler did to 6 million Jews cannot be morally quantified and called evil? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely not, nor can any act of any human being or animal be judged good or evil. There is
Do you
no
agree
such
with that,
thing as
Zena?
good or evil.
Yes, I agree with that, because if you look at every war, no matter whether it was the Third Reich or whether it was the Spanish Inquisition or any war, any movement has always caused bloodshed.
Whoever won
There
the
is
war
always-
decided what evil was.
And then the victors wrote history. So you always have to keep that in mind.
If King George had won the American Revolution, George Washington would be remembered as one of the great evil tyrants of all time. History decides what is good and evil.
But now
So
what
if
we're
Hitler had
seeing-
won,
If Hitler had won, obviously, your school books would say Hitler was good, everything else is evil. It's so relative that why can't we,
But
why can't the
there's a
human
difference.
race
There's a difference
step
here.
out of this
There's
primitive
6 million
argument of good and evil?
6 million corpses.
What about Stalin
about
and 10
Stalin
million
and 10
Polish?
million?
Let's talk about-
And
let's
what about
talk
the
about it.
Ukrainians?
Sure.
Why is there
Let's
only
talk about
one?
the Ukrainians.
Why is there only one Holocaust, one evil?
Was Stalin?
What about in El
was
Salvador?
Stalin-
There are millions
was
of people
Stalin's
dying right now.
Slaughtering of the Ukrainians through famine a malicious act of evil?
There's no such thing as evil. It was a typical act of a human being. And if you want to look at human history from the day that we came from the primordial swamp that creation began in, what you're calling evil is part of human nature.
It's part of evolution also.
How many? Now,
what
what about the millions of people who were killed in Europe, accused of being witches, children and women burnt at the stake, while crowds of good, pious Christians gathered around and watched them burn for a
It was
Sunday
evil.
celebration?
I will call that evil.
I won't call it evil. I'll say it's human nature.
Evil. I will call it evil, and I will take
Well,
it a
then-
step further to say that it was philosophically the antithesis and totally inconsistent with what the Bible teaches.
Well, maybe the problem is...
Now, hang on. What Nazism did to the Jews was philosophically consistent with the occult Aryan ideas of Hitler. So what I'm saying is...
Well, that's
the
what you're
witches-
deciding because you're a Christian in 1989. The Christian church rulership in the 1600s would think you were a heretic for saying such things. So all I'm telling you is morality is a relative issue, and nobody can decide what is good and evil.
Is murder relative?
Murder is absolutely relative. When we sent, when I say we, I mean the American government sent our troops to Vietnam to kill people. Was it evil? Were those good murderers? Are there good murderers if they're wearing a soldier's uniform and bad murderers if they're not?
Would you say that to the mother of Sharon Tate?
Yes, I would say that to
You
the mother
would?
of Sharon Tate. In fact,
Or do you want to let Charlie Manson out of prison?
that's a whole other issue.
Do you?
Charles
Do you think
Manson,
he deserves to be let out of prison?
Charles Manson, for one thing, I don't believe is guilty of the crimes he's been accused of. But that's a whole other issue.
You're kidding.
Well, how much do you really know
How much
about
do you know
all of
about
these
Charles
things that you're
Manson? How
talking
much
about?
do you know about Hitler?
Well,
How much do you know about
now wait a
anything?
minute. Zena, Charlie has pretty well made his philosophy known. I mean, he's spoken clearly and openly, and there's no denial on his part of his role in the Tate LaBianca murders, that he sent those people in that house to commit a bloodbath.
Where'd you hear that? I can show you 20 years of quotes.
Where you've heard
where
that.
Are you saying that Charlie Manson is a rational mind? Are you saying this man is not a murderous psychotic? Is that what you're saying?
By your point of view, of course not.
Now, you see, what I find interesting
go ahead.
is my father is now suddenly lumped into these ranks, because all around me I hear now that my father is just like Manson and just like Hitler, and now I'm beginning to question.
No,
you
didn't.
You don't.
Many people
But this
do.
is a common opinion, and now I'm beginning to question why. Why is my father so much like Manson, and why is he considered so much like Hitler, and why is he considered so much like even Rasputin, who completely turned the Russia upside down? And now I'm beginning to realize that maybe there are two sides to every story, and maybe if you examine the other sides that you don't hear about, you learn something that is a little more illuminating.
Zena, I don't find it terribly surprising that there should be some analogies between your father and people like Rasputin. It seems pretty reasonable to me in terms of the ideology that he set forth. It really is a get yours first, don't look out for the other guy, Machiavellian kind of philosophy.
Well, that's right, but also you were referring to other people in history that I was saying you have to consider both sides of every story.
There's
and
another
now,
side to Hitler?
Do you think there's only one side to anything?
Guy killed 6 million people.
And that's all you know, and that's all you have to know.
No, I know much more about Hitler than that, but in terms of determining his moral place in history, I don't have any problem.
Now, we're in the same position.
Who determines the moral place? Who determines it? Who has the right to determine what is good and evil?
Well, of course, I would respond from the standpoint of the Christian ethic, but even a humanist sitting in this chair.
I don't like humanists any more than Christians.
You don't like humanists either?
Humanists, you have to understand this once and for all. Christians must know Satanism is not humanism. Humanism is based on Christian ethics and ideas. It just doesn't have Christ, but it has the same appalling ideas about equality, love for everybody, indiscriminate love for all living things, and we oppose those ideas.
Altruism, humanitarianism,
Humanism and Christianity are in bed together. They're the same thing.
Well, the humanists might not appreciate that, but I hear where you're coming from.
Of course they wouldn't.
A white witch or
and
a
as far as I'm concerned, there's Satanism and then there's other people.
Yeah, your father in the satanic rituals really puts out some zingers at the witches who want to be white witches. He says there really is no such thing. A witch is a witch is a witch.
That's right. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Now there's where I do agree with your father. Yes.
I think you would find that you do agree on a lot of principles with the satanic philosophy, if you clearly understood and looked at it. We are saying that the act
Well, I don't know if I'd carry that
in
far.
the sense that the act of manipulating and using the will and using ritual to create change is, by any definition, satanic. And anyone who does that is at least an ipso facto Satanist. So these witches that say they're good witches, white witches, nice witches, are as hypocritical as a Christian to me.
Your father also says in the Satanic Witch, quote, of psychics who say, God gave me the gift, these people are playing the devil's game but refusing to use the devil's name.
Well, that's right. Wouldn't you consider any form of divination or faith healing or tarot
Divination
reading
is biblically forbidden. I would consider it to be satanic.
So we would say that anything that would fall under that category would be considered satanic. And it's not just us. I mean, this has been throughout history. And predating Christianity, there have always been those who have veered from the mainstream, whatever that mainstream was, who have gone out in the wilderness and built shacks to live in, to be away from the mainstream and live their own lives the way they feel they ought to.
Well, the one thing I can say, you Satanists are certainly more honest than most witches when it comes to acknowledging the authenticity, the reality of what you're doing.
We're not, as I was saying, you might not like what we have to say, but we are honest. I mean, we don't claim to be anything that we aren't.
Well, speaking of honesty, before we get off Charlie Manson, do you want to talk about what happened August 8, 1988 in San Francisco?
Well, I wrote a book called The Manson File, and I've interviewed Charles Manson.
I want to talk about the ritual you held in the theater.
Yeah. Nicholas coordinated that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And when the movie showed...
Let me explain what happened. The Other Side of Madness, a film that was made in 1970, an exploitation film, was shown. And of course, as everyone has reported in the national media, the audience cheered during the murder sequence.
Well, this is a bloody murder sequence. I mean, this was when Sharon Tate's body is slit open and her child, her unborn child, is removed. And
no, that didn't happen, but that's a fine point. But yes, it was a bloody murder.
The audience cheered.
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas,
have you been to a Friday the 13th movie?
Unfortunately, but yet, Nicholas, you're sitting there so calmly.
What do you want me to do? Cry? What do you want me to do? Have remorse and break down in tears?
This is what I find interesting.
What is the proper reaction
from a Christian point? You won't say that Hitler
point?
Is evil. You sit there calmly. You want us...
What do you want? What's the right thing to do from the Christian point of view? Should I moan and whine about it?
Isn't this what you expect
We're
of
looking
us?
at human nature. If you can't accept it, that's your problem. I can.
Murder is always part of human nature.
Is it wrong? Is it wrong? Is it wrong to murder?
What is wrong?
Are you going to change it?
Is it wrong to murder?
Is it
Zena,
wrong
is it wrong to murder?
As it says in the Satanic Bible, can you love the blood-splashed jaws that rend you limb from limb? Is that wrong? Can you love and feel...
You haven't answered me.
I am answering you.
Is it wrong to murder?
Depends on the circumstances.
No, you answer the question. Is it wrong to murder?
What is wrong? Murder is part of life.
We're telling you, we don't believe in good, evil, right, wrong dichotomy. If I come at you and you kill me in self-defense, is it wrong? Should you sacrifice yourself?
No, wait a minute.
Murder can't
That's
be
not murder.
Murder is no more wrong. Well, there, you're deciding.
Murder is no more wrong than what?
You're deciding what murder is.
What is it then? Define everything if you want to debate it clearly.
There always has
Zena, we've got
murder.
6,000 years of human history to define what murder is.
That's right. So how are we
Killing
going to
is
define
a part
here?
of animal behavior. Humans do it
more
than
see,
others.
I don't really believe that I would need to worry about walking down a dark alley and being followed by either of you with a gun in your pocket. But what you have just said, let me finish. What you have just said, articulated to the masses, particularly in a dysfunctional society where people are filled with all types of anger and rage because of past abuses, what you're really doing, I think, is potentially lighting a fuse. I'm not worried that you're going to pull a gun out of your pocket and shoot me in front of these cameras, but I don't know that somebody else might not do that because of what you've said. You're not willing to condemn murder.
Let me answer your questions in 3 points. The masses. We have no regard for the masses. Satanism is a religion for the elite. It is a religion for leaders. It's a religion for competent people. It's not a religion for anyone who wants to be a Satanist. We don't say welcome to the club.
The homeless, the handicapped, those with multiple sclerosis
I don't want
apply.
the homeless, the handicapped.
The people
That's your
in
job.
Mother Teresa's home for the dying and the destitute, they need not apply.
I don't want them. You've taken that on your shoulders. That's your job. You're doing a great job with the homeless. You help everyone. We're helping those who help themselves, as it says in your Bible. And you can take the weak.
No, it doesn't say that in the Bible.
You can take the decrepit. You can take people who can't help themselves. We don't want them. It's simple. It's very simple.
The homeless you don't want to shelter?
No, I don't want to shelter people who can't take care of themselves. Why can't they?
The hungry, the starving, you don't want to
more.
feed? Zena, go ahead, Zena. What were you saying?
That produces more of the same. There has to be some change. If you look at the animal kingdom, how is the animal kingdom able to survive? There is no such thing as homeless.
Back to social Darwinism again. In the animal kingdom, you preserve what is strong.
Hang on.
You give more food to the stronger animal.
Until humans
you don't feed the
and start
weaker
killing
one.
the animals.
I'm trying to...
There's no welfare in the animal
Nicholas, I'm
world.
trying to remain as academically detached as I possibly can.
It's not an academically
but what
detached
you're saying
question.
Is so absolutely disgustingly outrageous. Now,
And
just
to
wait,
me-
just wait a minute. Let me...
To you,
To me,
Zena,
it's disgustingly outrageous
Zena.
that you would help these weak people who are draining our resources, who are causing so many problems. We could be doing positive things in the world.
Zena, I want to ask
These
you...
weaklings are taking away
Yeah,
all of our
well,
energy
that's-
and resources. And you've decided to help them. That's disgusting to me.
You've never been to a refugee camp.
Why would I possibly want to go to a refugee camp?
Zena, I've been
You have
there.
this
I wanna ask
masochistic
Zena.
love for
She's a woman.
weakness.
And what do you think that'll gain you?
Because
You wanna ask me?
women have more
'cause women
sensitive
are
natures.
soft.
I just want to make sure it isn't this firm resolve of this man who's over.
If you think that you're going to get a soft reaction from me because I'm a woman, then you
I'm
won't.
not. If you were in an Ethiopian famine camp,
What would
you
I
would-
be doing there?
you
Isn't
would
that
not-
the problem of the Ethiopian government, to take care of their own people? Why should we be taking care
no,
of
I tell you what it's the
them?
problem of. It's the problem of a communist totalitarian ideology in the Mengistu government that put those people in the place.
I
A
agree with you
philosophy,
there.
Well,
sir,
that's
a
fine, so
philosophy
that's
of
their-
dialectical materialism, a communist me-first
No, but-
philosophy
oh,
that is
nonsense. Let
not
me-
far from what you've said.
See,
now,
that's-
just
okay,
wait,
let's
wait,
put
wait.
it back
let's
on an
get, let's,
academic
no,
level.
no, let's get back to the refugee camp.
Okay, now...
You don't. I want to ask Zena. Zena, you don't want to feed starving people. You want them to die. That's what you're telling
No,
me.
I like your salesman technique of putting words in people's
Well,
mouth.
then you speak for yourself.
Did I ever say I want them to die? I'm saying, why do they exist in the first place?
Would you feed them?
Why would they be allowed
Would
to
you raise
exist?
money? Would you do what you could to collect the resources to feed them?
Would a wolf raise money to collect resources
For
to
the
feed
whelps of the litter.
a monkey in the tree?
Just yes or no, would you?
I'm using analogies. No, of course I wouldn't. If I did that, wouldn't they become more and more dependent on me and less dependent on themselves?
No, not
Well, why is
necessarily.
that?
Well, that hasn't been proven yet.
No,
so.
not necessarily.
Well, if you look at the welfare state we have and the people who are on welfare,
What are
isn't
they
it
doing
true
to
that there are
improve their lot?
generations of
Nothing.
there are generations of welfare recipients.
I
it's
understand
not like
that.
it's not like just a temporary thing.
No one's defending welfare.
Well, but it's all in the
Here's-
same
look,
context.
But
to
we're
me,
talking about
you
people.
just-
No. We're not talking about either lazy people or incompetent people.
Incompetent people.
No,
Yes, we are.
sir.
The Ethiopian government is incompetent.
But the people who suffer the starvation did
Why
not.
do we have a responsibility to help them unless we believe this nonsense in the Bible?
Because they're
if we're realists, we
because they're
don't
human
have any.
beings. Because they feel pain. Because they suffer. Because they hurt. Does not the hurt and pain
That
of
isn't
another
enough. That isn't enough reason
Does
for
not the hurt and suffering of another human being at all touch your...
if the human being is worthy
So
of
what
my
you're
attention, I love people who are worthy of my love. That's very few.
And what you're saying
People
is
who
we
are
have-
strong, I admire them. I'll help them. I won't help people who are weak.
And
Okay.
what you're saying is we have to take the responsibility of other people's actions upon ourselves when we've done nothing, absolutely nothing, to have that result. We didn't do anything to
Does that
promote.
matter? They hurt. I mean, they're in pain. Does it matter? Does it matter? They hurt. I mean, you hurt. You call yourself an animal, but you hurt. You cut your finger. You bleed. You
And we take care
trip
of
and
it.
fall
We
and
take
break
care
your
of
leg.
it. Where's the
but
social agency that helps hurt Satanists? It doesn't exist. We help ourselves. And we encourage the same kind of self-discipline.
Well, you go to
and
the
fortitude.
same hospitals I can
And
go
let me
to.
tell you something. When I go to a hospital, they see I'm dressed in black. They look at what they call occult symbolism, and they say, "Oh, you're a Satanist." I get treated last.